let's talk about the advertising that we are likely to see and things that are going to be going on here in the NFL season here for the next 5 months.
Well, I mean, it's no secret that NFL is at the time of the year where everyone throws money at the problem. Huge customer acquisition rush. And there's, a few numbers floating around, like Front Office Sports had a report that Sportsbooks are going to spend $1 billion on advertising around this NFL season. There was a report from iSpot TV in the first week of the NFL. Sportsbooks spent about $21.4 million on TV ads across CNBC, Fox, and NBC. But of course, like as we've seen before with DFS in 2015, if you throw a load of money at this problem, if you plaster every NFL game, every sports event with 8 sportsbook ads, people start to get fed up with it. So that was kind of the gist of a webinar on Monday. A couple of top regulators from New Jersey and Colorado, they had some quite stern words, basically saying, we're hearing from our constituents, we're hearing from our legislators saying this is too much. There's too much advertising going on, and then their message to the industry was check yourself, or we will check you. Essentially,
Dustin.
Too bad they didn't say before you.
Yes, I thought he was. I know. I was like the perfect opportunity. Maybe that song didn't make it over to the UK. Is what it is, Dustin. So like maybe that song didn't make it over there. Brad's not familiar. So Dustin, look, you and I lived through this with. Actually, we kind of lived through this twice, right? Like, people didn't mind it all that much in the online poker days for whatever reason. I don't remember people complaining about online poker commercials, but they were everywhere, by the way. Like, they were all over the place. I mean, we were getting them at a very rapid rate. But then DFS came along. DFS commercials were just absolutely... you could not turn on any programming. You were like, I'm going to watch Oprah, and it would be like DFS commercials and stuff, whatever. Oprah was giving away tickets to the Millionaire Maker, basically, is what was going on throughout the course of all of that. And so that was when we really started to recognize just, this advertising blitz and how this maybe could be at least a little bit detrimental to the industry in the long term. And we were wondering how this was going to play out on the sportsbook side of things. And at least we are having people come out before this gets out of hand and saying like, hey, maybe rein it back just a tad.
Yeah, and I think we've said that more than once on this podcast that this danger existed. It was interesting to hear it come from regulators now saying, "Hey, let's do this." Brad can attest to the fact that this is the life cycle in the UK, right? They've been through this. They've seen too many advertising and it's been too ubiquitous. And now there's just this spotlight because of NFL season. This is already very bad in every state where there's legal sports betting. You can ask anybody who lives in one of these states who watches sports. And they are getting bombarded. I say this all the time. I watch baseball, and it's like everything on MLB feeds is like DraftKings live read, DraftKings commercial, like PointsBet live read. It's just, it hammers you over the head, and it's 2 commercials on the actual. It's just all of it. It's always happening, and that's just baseball. So this is not necessarily a new phenomenon. It's just front and center with NFL season, the NFL agreeing to take sportsbook ads. All of that is contributed, and we do have this bad. Like some people have this bad taste in their mouth from 2015 when it was everywhere and it was obnoxious. And can it get obnoxious to it now? Absolutely, and it's already arguably gotten into that. So it's this ubiquitousness, and the regulators that Brad quoted here talking a little bit about got to be a little bit more upfront about responsible gambling and being honest about the bonus terms and things like that. And you're kind of skirting it, and all of it can add up to bad things. And I guess I'd be curious, Brad, like what do you see as an outside observer who's both covering this here and has been through it in the UK? What's it like? How's it stacked up to what's happening in the UK?
Brad, to add on to that question, I was going to ask is kind of a follow-up here was what was it like at its worst when you were over there? Was it literally like 3 sportsbook ads in a row, like as you're watching a game? Like what was it like at its worst before there had to be some changes made?
I mean, I'll be honest. I think you guys have ramped up pretty quickly to where we were, right? Like, the show itself, sponsored by the bookmaker. The teams come out; they've got the bookmakers on the shirt. The halftime ads are bookmakers. The pitch hoardings are bookmakers. And then, it was just too much. And the thing is, when the regulators, when they come for when it starts to be in their face all the time and people are complaining, they don't just come for advertising. They don't just go, right, no more advertising. They come for everything, like, affordability, sort of responsible gambling. You get into all of it. And, that was kind of the message, like, regulate yourselves or we will regulate you. So, they were calling for, because, obviously the industry is in growth mode. Everyone's trying to acquire customers, but they said, you guys need to work together and work out some ground rules, work out we're only going to spend this much on NFL games, and we're going to have responsible gambling messaging. We're going to have these terms, work out a handbook together, whether it's through one of your trade groups, but you need to, do something sharpish and get to terms with this. Otherwise, it's going to end badly for you.
It's interesting, Dustin, because I guess for me, a couple of different things. One, I don't ever watch commercials unless I'm watching a sporting event. And living in Nevada, for me, I've had sportsbook commercials for, however long now, 8 years, 7, 8 years now. People, they weren't as kind of like in your face as they are now a little bit, but I've had them for a long time. Right. And so it didn't really register for me all that much because, I'm either watching sports and flipping between games and stuff. So commercials don't really hit me all that often. And so it's interesting to me that it has already gotten to this point because, again, I just didn't notice it, right? I'm watching sports. If one game goes to commercial, I'm flipping to a different one. I'm going all over the place. The only other programming I really watch is I'm on Bravo watching $1 Million Listing and stuff like that. So I'm not getting sportsbook ads over on that. Guilty pleasure for me, by the way. $1 Million Listings. I love those shows. But Dustin, so I guess I didn't really get it. You're in a state though where there's not like a lot of competition. So you're probably not getting a ton of that either unless you're just watching like a regional feed, right?
Yeah, we got some on Blazers games, I think, for Oregon Scoreboard because we have to deal with them. But yeah, not a whole lot. Unless you're getting the national. Again, when I watch baseball, I watch a decent amount of baseball in my off hours, and yeah, you get bombarded with it there, especially for states where it's legal. So. Yeah, to me, it's interesting to see what will happen. What will regulators actually do something? We've talked ad nauseum on this podcast how it's been very light touch in a lot of states, right? Everybody kind of follows New Jersey's lead, lets things happen. If New Jersey starts cracking down, though, I think that's a point where everybody's like, "Whoa, what are we doing here?" And everybody's watching sports is seeing this. Like you can't escape from this if you're watching sports. You're going to get. Especially I can't imagine in Arizona right now. Like I know CJ who works in Arizona for us is getting says it's already there because a launch on top of NFL season, right? That's as big as it gets, and it's just been constant for him in Arizona. And like we said, a lot of books are open there right away. So I don't know. We'll see what comes of all of this. You hope. All it takes is maybe that like with the DFS, like what's the match. Yeah. Is it some big story that comes out about somebody losing a lot of money? I've worried about that for a lot of time where there's this backlash because of something of us not being as regulated as it should be in every state. I'd say.
Yeah, I would say on that the kind of the flame, the spark in the UK that prompted clampdowns was. I think it was a lot of media stories about people who had gambling addiction, say, and this person stole £300,000 from their employer, bet it all, was offered more bonus money at 3 a.m, bet that all, and when you start reading these stories and all the sort of tragic things that come from that, and then there's a narrative and a face behind what the harm is being done here. That's when I think regulators can be like, right, we're going to step in.
It's going to be interesting, Dustin, like you mentioned, though, and to kind of put a bow on this is I don't know the correct answer to all this because, like, if you're in a state like Arizona, right, where there's 20 different books all trying to vie for some sort of eyeballs to get people to sign up at their place over the other person. It's like, you can't like say, okay, each of you get 3 commercials per 6 hours or whatever, it's like, so I don't know the right answer to all of it, to be perfectly honest either. I think maybe it just goes to what you guys were alluding to, that the commercials are just going to have to exist, but maybe during the commercials, if there is a little bit more of the kind of, explanation of the bonus stuff, explanation of responsible gaming, different things like that. But I don't know how you really fix it when there's so many different people who are trying to get in front of everybody, and these, stations are still trying to make money and all that. I don't know how you fix it.
Yeah, there's not really a great answer because all of these companies are, it's even different than UK, right? Because all these companies are in growth mode, are trying to get behind their huge valuations for them in some cases. Like they have to do this, right? If they want to keep spinning the narrative that they're growing, that they're one of the top operators, you can't. It's not like you're just going to say, "Oh, I'm just going to spend a little bit on commercials because somebody else will suck up the oxygen."
We'll just let our competitor outspend us 20x on this. It's fine. We'll definitely get the same amount of people as them. Right.
So Brad's right. Like you kind of like, and the regulators are right. There has to be some kind of ground rules. Like they all have to agree. Like let's calm it down a notch as things go on. Let's get on the same page. Let's not get regulators up on our business. We've had a very easy time of it till now. And even like New Jersey and Reebok said, I remember the early days, like we had to wait to see promotions. Like they couldn't just throw out a promotion. They had to go through a regulator, get it said, okay, we sign off on this. They stopped that process because there's a bazillion books and promos every other minute in New Jersey and everywhere else. But like that's the speed at which this thing moves and what's going on. And I think New Jersey's serious when they say this. Like again, they've been not always perfect, but they do care about this issue, and everybody, for better or worse, often follows what New Jersey does. So if they step in, does this kind of slow down everything for everyone? It'll be interesting to see.